ending in my kitchen when we went live. But hey, you know what? It's fine. It's fine. This is how things happen. It happens occasionally that things don't go as planned. We're going to talk about a bunch of stuff, but the big one is, let's get this, all messages. We're going to unbox this knife that just came in this morning. Well, technically it came in yesterday. But you guys will notice the audio is different. It might not be great. However, what happened was when I filmed yesterday's video that you saw yesterday morning, I was in a big rush and because it was early in the morning and I forgot to turn off the transmitter, or I'm sorry, the receiver for my microphone system, and it's completely dead. Like it's charging, it's gonna take it hours to charge. And I was like, I pulled it out and I was like, oh no. I could see the little light blinking and I was like, oh, I left that on all day. So we are going to talk about that knife as well. And I will put up a purchase link. I'm going to put up a purchase link. Let me see if I can do it right now. Let me see if I can copy this. So Jared, before we unbox this, Jared sent me this knife and I'm in love with it. I haven't done a lot of stuff with it. I'm not going to lie. This has not been through a hard use regimen, I think, just little things around the house. But I can definitely tell. Let me get this set up. I'm gonna put up a link and see if I can pin it. But definitely, it's a really cool design. We'll talk about that and some other stuff. We may go outside while I drink my coffee. We'll talk outside and see. Let me see here. How do I get into my own live? View my channel. There it is. So I'm going to drop a link to this so you guys know. Jared sent me this and I fell in love with this and I can't, let me see if I can pin this comment. Maybe I can pin this comment myself. Nope. That's not it. Let me see, how do I pin a comment? Well, at any rate, I can't pin the comment. But this knife is the one that Jared sent me. I was literally making a cup of coffee and accidentally hit go live on this. So the cool thing about this, doing it this way, I don't have my microphones. It's not that big a deal. Let me see, how do I pin message? There we go. I can pin the message. So that message you see, that pinned message right there, is the link to pick up this knife. Now, it is an affiliate link, and to be honest, Jared gave me this knife. This is my knife to keep, but really, really cool. We're gonna talk about that first, and we'll talk about it a little bit later. But the cool thing is, it is really, really similar to a knife that you guys know I love. See, this has its benefits. I don't always have to have such great production quality. Like, I try to do everything. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and so using the microphones, and if the audio sounds tinny, let me know. But I like to use my wireless microphones because it just gives you better audio and I can walk away and things like that. But it uses more battery and it's finicky. At any rate, Jared sent this to me, and immediately I saw some similarities, some correlation between this knife and this knife that I love. And you guys can see why I'm saying that. As a matter of fact, this has got a little bit more of a piercing point. So this one's a great, I love this knife. This is the Grimsmo Norseman. It is probably the best knife that is on the market as far as, like, you're talking, this is, when people are like, is that knife worth $1,000? This knife is absolutely worth $1,000. It is, and that's what I paid for it. It's incredible, and it is a great, great knife. This knife has a lot of similarities to that when you're talking about blade shape and things like that. It's just really good on how it cuts. So it's a nice hollow ground, recurved Tonto. The nice thing about this is this harpoon blade. Can you see where your thumb just naturally drops in on that? This thing's great. I've cut up a little bit of cardboard, some small stuff. I'm holding off on doing a lot of like really heavy cutting and things with it because there's a chance this may have to go out on loan to another channel for Jared. Are spare blades available for the Norseman? I have not ever asked Eric and John about that. I doubt it. I really, really doubt it. Like, I'm going to say that, like, the amount of work that they put into that, I'm going to say there's no way you're going to get a replacement blade. You might be able to purchase a blade, but the problem is, like, they're so picky. They'd be like, well, we can't really sell. I don't know though, because it's they were really clear when I ordered the additional stop pins for this knife. They were like, oh, we need your serial number. Oh no, it was the bearings. When my bearings got run through the garbage disposal, they were like, hey, we need to know the serial number so we can make sure we know what one. So I would imagine they have the specs on every knife saved somewhere. So I don't know. I know John and Eric, and guys, there's 25 of you here. If you haven't dropped a like, I'd really appreciate it. But yeah, this has a lot of similarities to that. Hey, buddy. Nice thing about this. Hey, buddy, what you doing? What you doing? Say hi to everybody. Say hi to everybody. Mm-hmm. Grab your tongue. Okay, yeah, you want to hold hands. Okay, I gotcha. The cool thing about it is recurve tontos are really cool if they're done well, and Jared did an amazing job on this. If you do them well, this does a ton of the power cutting, and with it being a recurve, a tonto has that, but a recurve tonto, if it's done well, just forces material into that area of the knife, and it's really, really awesome. Steelers Nation, what's up, bud? So yeah, you can, that pinned comment at the top of the comment section, that's the link to this knife. Now I'm trying to help Jared sell these. He deserves to sell these out. Jared's a great dude. He's done so much to help out the channel. So I definitely wanted to bring that. We are going to, because the dog hasn't been out yet. I think we're going to go outside quick. I think we're going outside, put the dog out real quick. He hasn't been out since my wife left for work early this morning. So we're going to go out here. And I'd like to remind everyone, please keep it clean. I do have a younger audience these days. They're not super young, but it's very clear. Oh, I forgot to, guess what I didn't do? I forgot to restart the cuckoo clock. Oh, well, I'm gonna have to reset that. I do have a younger audience, especially now that the neighbors' grandkids started following me, so please keep the comment section as clean as we possibly can. I do occasionally get a little bit, how old's the dog? He's just about 2. Just about 2. Huh, buddy? You wanna go potty? Come on, let's go. Let's go potty. Come here. Come on, let's go. Go to the door. Jump. Jump. Oh, well. He doesn't want to, but we'll go out. We'll go out here while I'm drinking my morning coffee. I am honestly trying to test and see how strong my Wi-Fi is. This is the testing facility. If you guys have seen it in videos, this is where I come out to. This is where I come out to tear into knives and like really test them and beat on them and put them through their paces is out here. And it's nice because I have this big retaining wall that is wood, so I can do chopping and I can do stabbing. You can see there's some remnants of some chopping I did there. But we are going to unbox this new Vosteed knife. Now, I've seen this on some other channels. You see here, he's really cute. I like your shorts with him. Yeah, he's a pretty good boy. He likes to come out. He likes to come out and sniff around the yard. My wife and I spent the long weekend doing a bunch of planting things. So he was out here. We're trying to keep, now that's just weeds right there. These are African daisies, and then we planted a bunch of wildflowers in this entire flower bed that we made. I just don't have anything yet, so I used some firewood to block off the weed bed to keep, he won't go in there if I put something up. Like, he goes in that all the time, but he doesn't go in here. At any rate, I have the Vosteed Psyop that came in. The Vosteed Psyop came in, and it didn't come from Vosteed, so this isn't like an affiliate review. I do have an affiliate link with Vosteed, so if you like this knife, there is an affiliate link in the description of this video that takes you to Vosteed knives, and you can pick this up. But this is the Psyop, and this came from one of the paying members. Hey, what's up, Dean? So we are going to use Jared's knife to open up the knife that we're going to do an unboxing. Like I said, the affiliate link for this is right there. It's the pinned comment on this. What do we got here? Okay, guess what, Dean? Bye. At any rate, so this came from Winston Cobretti. He sends me some stuff. He sent me a t-shirt and some stuff. I'm gonna ask him, there was some stuff that came with this that I might want to do as a giveaway. We're gonna see if he's cool with that. It's something that I have a duplicate of. So this is the Vosteed Knives Psyop. And I've seen it on a couple other channels, but I've never gotten to see it in person. So apparently this is in Elmax with a copper dune blade, black micarta handle. Winston knows me. All those things right there are things that I like the sound of. So first time out of the box. Woo. This is cool. Oh, it's a button lock? Guys, look at this. Here, let me turn this around so you can see it better. Look at that. This is a nice knife. Vosteed always does good work. I did not know they were making knives in Elmax. Micarta, Elmax, button lock. What you crying about, buddy? What you crying about, bud? Yeah, so this thing is really, really cool. Button lock. That's comfortable. This is going to get its own video here soon. I just thought it would be fun to open it up. Are you feeling neglected? Huh? Are you feeling neglected? Butt scratches? He's very needy. He's very needy. He's a very attention wanting dog. Is the offender hard to sharpen? Not really. I'm going to tell you right now, this one won't be hard to sharpen. I keep missing that. It won't be hard to sharpen. It's a gentle recurve and it's a nice flat. And the thing you have going for you is it's nice and thin. There are folks that will sharpen these if you're not comfortable sharpening a recurve Tonto. There's people that will sharpen these for you. EDC and Lace is out there. I'm gonna see how my shoulder's starting to feel. If I can get a cortisone shot, I may sharpen some knives for people. Guys, if you're here, please drop a like. But not hard to sharpen. The big thing is finding the stones that you're going to allow you to sharpen and what you want, the kind of stones you want. But a lot of times you can get away, especially on, so far on this one, Stropping seems to just bring this right back up. I have not been a super big fan of Magnacut. I've said that before. It's not horrible, and I'm going to keep the factory edge on this as long as possible because I just don't want to have to sharpen it. But when I do sharpen it, it's going to stay in the lower grit range, which makes it a little easier to sharpen. If you want toothy Magnacut, like really kind of a toothy edge, that you can get on some steels with, you know, at a higher grit, you may want to stick closer. So that means you're not going to use as many stones. But the edge on this seems to be holding up pretty well. So I don't think it's going to be that difficult to sharpen. But the nice thing is, if you have a round ceramic rod, let's go back in. Get up. Hey, don't lay in the mud, buddy. The ground's still up there. Get up. Up, 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 up. Yeah, see? Now you got grass all over. Hey, I don't want to play. It's not playtime. Sorry. Landscaper just mowed the yard. Now he's got grass all over him. Let's go in the house, bud. Let's go in the house, bud. House. Come on, house. Go. Go. No, I don't want to play. See, now you're covered in dirt. Come on, house. House. House, 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 house. Go in the house. So you don't get all... I didn't even think about bringing him out here that the landscaper just mowed. And so now he's got grass all over that shirt that my wife made for him. Move, bud. Back up. Gotta come in. Gotta come in. Yeah, hop up there. So, yeah, I don't think people are gonna have near the problem with the offender that they've had with some of the other Tontos that are out there, mainly because it's nice and thin behind the edge. It's nice and thin behind the edge. This thing is really thin behind the edge. It's got a very consistent grind, so you're not going to have to redo a bunch of stuff. But what I was saying was on this one, we'll get back to this Vosteed in a second. As soon as I put it in my pocket. Put it in my pocket. Forgot about it. So yeah, it's going to be a more approachable sharpening for a lot of people than some of the other recurve Tontos. But what I was saying is, there's a pinned comment for this down below. Please go if you're interested in this. These are $299. Jared has got them on his website, which, like I said, that pinned comment is the link. I like some 1095 knives, Vladimir. You can order additional hardware for this knife in different colors. On the website, you can do it. And like I said, that pinned comment is a link directly to purchase this on their website. But you can order additional hardware. It's a pre-order because they're still making the hardware. There was a mix-up with the length of the screws, but you can get additional hardware. Pocket clip and a pivot screw and all that stuff, and you can get them in different colors. Do I have a buck knife? I have a buck knife. I have a buck 110. I'm sorry, buck 119 special. This isn't about buck knives, it's about this. But buck knives aren't bad. I like the 119 special. It's a really good knife. So yeah, this is the pinned comment for that. And then this is the one we just unboxed. This is the PSYOP, and I'm digging this. On first impressions, it is in Elmax. It is so this is a series, this is a limited run. 169 of 230, there's only 230 of these. This is it's not a button lock. You know what this is? This is that compression lock. This is that compression lock that they use that is on the Chaos as well. The camera's probably got it reversed. It's probably the camera. This is my right hand. So, yeah, I think it's mirrored. I don't know how to change that. It shouldn't be mirrored. Is there a way to set that? So, yeah, this thing's cool. We're going to get to test this a bunch. I got to find out for sure because with this a limited edition, kind of I got to find out from Winston 100% whether this is here to stay or if this is something that he is just wanting me to test. So it's basically a compression lock. It's a button compression lock like they used on the Chaos, on the RS Chaos, which I liked a lot. And guys, please, if you're here, please drop a like. Drop a like if you're here. I just ask that we don't get into politics, we don't get into religion, and you're nice to everyone in the comment section. And you keep it at least PG-13 because I have a younger audience. Look at the hardware on that. Really, really clean. Let me me see here. Let's turn this. Don't mind the milk crates that I bought for storage. Let me turn this around so you guys can see that hardware. That hardware is unique. It's got a pivot collar on it. Dirt McGirt, there, buddy. You know, at one point, I had blocked Dirt McGirt. We had I had some undiagnosed and untreated PTSD stuff, and it just made me an unpleasant person. And Dirt McGirt came in and he made a comment one time, and I completely blocked him. And I was like, you know what? I need to go back through and give everybody a chance to come back. And so I've unblocked a bunch of people, but that's, you know, it's not a permanent thing. You could always wind up getting banned again. Is the compression lock strong? Compression locks are incredibly strong because of the way they're built. The way it sits in. I did a live feed here not too long ago where we talked about how is that crooked? Wow, that is really not. That's not any better either. So where are you going? You don't go out there. Don't go out there by yourself. You get into stuff. He dug a hole in the yard that was the size of a Volkswagen. Like I came home one day and he had dug the entire yard. And I was like, and just all happy. He was in the yard all day by himself, just covered with dirt. And there was an area in our yard the size of my Volkswagen Golf that there just was nothing but like a hole that was like this deep. And I was like, what the freak is wrong with you? So compression locks are really, really strong. This isn't a compression lock. This is a button actuated back liner lock is what that's what Vosteed calls theirs. It's a button compression lock. It's like putting a CME on a knife and then just putting a hole through the scales. Scales on this are really nicely done. Vosteed does really good knives. I walked out. I don't like to make comparisons. Dennis, I don't like to make comparisons on steels. I think it's going to be determinant on what you want in a knife and what steels you like. It's going to be that game of like trying to figure out. I have never done anything in. I've never dealt with anything in 30. Are you talking about S30V? I'm definitely gonna say if it's I would go 440C over HC over S30V. I don't like S30V. Do you know if simple carbon steels take polished edges better? It depends on heat treat, depends on a lot of stuff, depends on the steel, Vladimir. It's just the term. This thing is really nice. This thing is really nice. And there are carbides in carbon steel. That's the whole point of carbon steel. They just form a different type of carbide. So, yeah, I know. Is it S30V that you're talking about? Because if you're talking about S30V, which I imagine that's what you're talking about, I fucking hate it. I hate it. Now, this is Elmax, which is great. It does form carbides. There's a lot of carbon in it. That's the point of having carbon in a steel, is it forms carbides. It might not form the same carbides you're thinking of. It's not going to have a bunch of vanadium and stuff in it, but it definitely does form carbides. That's carbon in the steel kind of does that. So this coffee that I'm currently drinking came with in the box with this knife. And it's a mystery flavor from Bones Coffee. And it's good, but I am just completely at a loss for what flavor it is. Yeah. This is a really, really cool knife. I'm digging this. If this is something that I'm going to get to keep, you're going to see this in a bunch of videos. It is so sharp. Some companies, I wanted to talk about this. We did this. Some companies don't do great factory edges. It's just a fact. I hate to say it, but a lot of times these days, cold steel, their factory edges can be problematic. on a few of the knives that I've had come in. This one is not the case. This has probably got one of the best factory edges in a long time. Cold Steel, historically though, has sent knives that had some of the best factory edges. Vosteed knives edges always come just scary, scary, scary sharp. Does steel matter? It does. It does, depending on what you're going to do with a knife or the tool or things like that. So, you're like, how's it going to hold its edge? But this is the Vosteed knives, Psyop, and this is the Elmax Copper Dune Black Micarta handle. So this is a really cool knife. I'm digging it. And Vosteed always sends you a bunch of information on stuff. They always send you a wipey rag. This one's orange. Vosteed makes the only orange knife that I like. I typically am not a fan of orange knives. I prefer a bad edge with a good bevel grinds over a good edge with bad grinds. That's what I was gonna say. Their edges are always consistent. I have not had a misground edge yet from a Vosteed. Like, they're consistent. They're doing a very good job with their factory grinds. And a factory edge is pretty important. A factory edge is pretty important. You're going to carry that knife for a long time. If you're gonna carry a knife for a long time, you don't want to have to immediately sharpen a knife. And I've had a few knives that came in that I like that had bad factory edges. So, I don't like the bug out, so I wouldn't like that Ozark Trail one. So, on an Elmax Riat, I have an Elmax Riat XO, Raccoon Sex Dungeon, and I think you know this. Matter of fact, we can go out there and get it. I have that knife, and the edge on it has held up incredibly well. And even though technically it is illegal for me to carry, I still carry it. I'm not gonna lie, the fucking likelihood of me, here's the thing, the likelihood of me doing something that I would get in trouble for by carrying this knife is slim and none. And I'm pretty sure Slim left town a while ago. So let's plug you guys in just to make sure the battery doesn't die. Do I have some discontinued Spyderco knives? I don't think I do. I have one, and it's a really, really rare one. But this, the Elmax that Riat did on this one is really, really good. They did a great job on this. I haven't sharpened this yet. Now, granted, this does not get the amount of use that a lot of my other knives get, but it does get used. And the edge on this has held up really, really well. It's not as sharp as it used to be. I have to admit that. It probably needs sharpening. I just don't want to sharpen it. I don't want to have to sharpen anything these days right now, the way my shoulder is. So I'm trying not to make a horrendous mess before the wife gets home. I don't want to have to clean up. And the studio is a mess. That's why part of the reason we're doing it this way, I didn't really want to have to clean up the studio to do a live feed, to make room, because guys, if you saw the video that went up yesterday, and if you haven't, you probably should. It's basically an advertisement for Jared's knife that I put somewhere and now cannot locate. I'm trying to grab as much stuff. The studio's a mess. I wound up filming at like 4 o'clock in the morning. So the video that went up yesterday, basically the advertisement for the launch of Jared's knife. There it is. The launch of this knife, which is the pinned comment in this video. I couldn't get the video to upload. I kept getting an error. And so I reached out to YouTube night before last, and they were like, so Sunday night, and they were like, there's got to be something wrong with the video. Try uploading a different copy of the video. So I went back into my software and I went through and re-rendered the video and saved a new copy of that video, and it still wouldn't load. So when I did the inspector, there was a couple segments of video that had corrupted. They had corrupted file, like corrupted sections, where it's like dropped frames. And so since there was an error in it, it didn't save properly. And so I had to basically refilm the video you saw yesterday morning. At like 4:02, I think I finished it just after 4. But I owed it to Jared because this is a great design. This thing is absolutely incredible. And it, like I said, the pinned comment is a link to purchase this. I haven't been this happy with one of the knives that came in from a company in a long time. And this came from Jared, and Jared owns the company. Because this is not from a different company. I mean, it's manufactured by a different company, but this is Jared's company. He did this OEM. It's got his name on it. It's got his logo on it. And it's really good. It really is. Did you hear, like, just the ting you get on that? Thing, great. Nice long lock bar, so you have that gentle pressure, but enough detent to still, for it to be snappy. So longer lock bar means you have a different kind of lockup, or not different lockup, but a different kind of detent. It's in there. You can't shake it out. But because that pressure is different, it's spread across the length of the lock bar, you don't get quite, you get a much smoother action. That's basically, I don't know. I mean, it depends. Dennis, buy a buck 110 Swin Select. I don't know. It just depends on, what you want to do with a knife. And guys, if you're here, please drop a like. And if you want to, you can drop a super chat. That supports the channel, because I don't know what happened with YouTube, but my ad revenue dropped 50% since the beginning of, since January. Since January, my fucking YouTube revenue is down 50%, and until this new job starts, it's the only income I got. So typically I don't say anything about the super chat function. If you want to drop a super chat, I gratefully appreciate it. I would gleefully accept y'all's money. But you don't have to. Just drop a like. That's the most important one. I liked his other release, the one what was that? That was the Misdemeanor. Was that the Misdemeanor was his first design? I liked it. It was okay. This is better. For me, it's just, it fits my hand better. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff with this that just is better for me. Broader handles, just it's not a big knife, but it's definitely got a feel in hand that is really, it's got a feel in hand that's really good. So like 8 inches overall. And the fact it's got that recurve blade means that you just stay in the cut longer. It just cuts longer. Recurves are great. That's why I love recurves so more than... Is it more of a hard use knife? It's kind of in the middle. Vladimir, the first one was a performance cutter. Super, super thin. There was a lot of daily tasks you couldn't do it. This is more of a day-to-day user. I'm not going to say it's a hard use knife. If you want a hard use knife, you want something that is... Where are we at here with this? If you want a hard use knife as a folder, you're going to want something... Where'd I put it? I just had it. If you want a hard use folder, you want a cold steel. I'm telling you right now. If you want a hard use folder, just literally just had it. There it is. If you want a hard use folder, this is what you want. This is that cold steel large Espada. Yeah, granted, it's a pretty big knife. This is a 12-inch knife. 12 and 12 1/4, I believe. It's still going to be really good for day-to-day tasks. It's not massive. It sits in the pocket nice. For me, a 12-inch knife is not a massive knife because I'm a big guy, so I can carry it easily. What got this? Got a really good blade shape, and this is a hard use knife. Triad lock on it. It's not got, you know, it's not got a lot of bells and whistles, but it's also just a beast of a knife. So that's, and this is broken in nicely. It's super smooth now with all the, you know, all the use that it's gotten. They sit nice in pocket. The only thing is they will tear up pockets. I recommend doing something underneath that pocket clip to keep it from tearing up pockets, but it's not unwieldy. It's nicely balanced. This is a hard use pocket knife. Most pocket knives are not hard use. This is just good for day-to-day use. 8 inches, 12 inches. You, the guy she tells you not to worry about. The lock mechanism on it is dirty. So, yeah, this thing's great. Now, the purchase price on these is $299, which is a pretty good price for what you're getting. Magnacut, titanium, and like I said, day-to-day user, yeah, it's probably going to be pretty good for you. Now, if you're wanting to go out in the woods and do a bunch of stuff, this probably isn't what you want. And as a matter of fact, this might not be what you want. I would say that this is closer to what you would want, but it's still, this is like an outdoorsman style folding knife. I still would prefer a fixed blade. What's up, Paul Mills? What's going on? The AUS 10 on this, really, really good. Really, really good. Now, with that being said, some of you are saying this knife's too big. It's not even close. If this knife is too big, you definitely want to avoid its big brother. Because this is the XL version of that knife. I'm not gonna lie, I do carry this. I do carry this. I find myself surprised by it. It's not a good day-to-day, but this is 12 inches, 12 1/4. This is 16 3/4. This is just shy of 17 inches. It is too big for most things, but there's some caveats to that. There's some caveats to everything. So you can definitely use this for stuff you could not use any other folding knife for. Medieval battlefield, dueling. What's up, Peterbilt? There is a lot of things you can do with this that you can't do with other knives, but there are limitations to it as well. But this does carry pretty well. I did a video about this not long ago. The 12-inch version is just much more manageable. This is about the most perfect knife that Cold Steel has made. The balance and everything. Now, I'm not going to say that the higher end version is as perfect. I have handled that knife. I don't like it as well. This knife is much better balanced in hand. Weight distribution on it's better. It's easier to carry. It's not as fancy, so you're not going to do it. And I don't like S35 VN, which is what the higher end version is in. This is in AUS 10, which I will tell you, I did a bunch of chopping with both of these knives. The AUS 10 that Cold Steel is using is very well heat treated. They have always done a good job on heat treats. The heat treat on this is incredible. I chopped that firewood that you guys saw that is around that flower bed that we made when we were outside just a few minutes ago. That's kiln dried oak firewood. It's hard. It's very, very hard. And that's what I was chopping with this, and I didn't get any issues with the edge. I got none. Peterbilt Knife Guy, I was going to ask you while you're here, that knife that you had that had the soft spot in it, did that resolve itself after a couple of sharpenings? I am curious. Matt Dennison, I just don't like S35VN. I don't like the edge it takes. I find that it gets slick when you sharpen it on specific stones and things like that. I don't like how fine the edge is on it. That's part of the reason I don't like Magnacut. I'm a fan of steels with great big carbides in it they might not be as fine a grain structure, but they're really aggressive, and that allows you to take it to a finer grit, which means that you get the benefits of both sides. If you take this knife to a finer grit, you're going to have some problems with the aggressiveness of the cut, which means you usually have to stay to a lower grit. A higher grit allows you the best of both worlds. So you lose the friction in the cut, so therefore there's not as much friction on the edge to wear at the edge. There's less actual friction in the cut. You get a finer cut, but you still have that aggressiveness for things that you're cutting that's like line and rope and things like that, that tooth. You get the best of both worlds. S35VN is not a bad steel. One of my favorite knives in the world is in S35VN, which is my Sabenza. It's just not my preferred steel, so if I have a choice, I'm going to pick something other than S35VN. And with everything in its totality, this knife is great. I had a let me see here. Okay, so Peterbilt Knife Guy, you've only sharpened it once, haven't tested it again. I'm curious. I'm just curious if maybe they spent too much time on the belt in that one spot and overheated the edge and it got a little soft. I'm just curious for my own edification. It holds an edge really well. I will say that. It's tough. Magnacut has a lot of benefits. I just not such a big fan of the edge it takes. So I'm just curious. But this is 64-65, so it's held up really well. The edge, I will say that the edge is good. It's a really good edge on this. And Magnacut does take a very, very good edge. It's just not as aggressive as an edge as I want. So I've always been a fan of those polished edges that are still toothy, and there's ways to do it, but some steels you just can't. It doesn't do exactly what you want it to, if that makes sense. I will say rust resistance and things like that you're going to get out of Magnacut is going to be stellar. It's up there with some of the other steels that are just really, really good. Sorry. Elmax is another really good steel that I like. I like Elmax better. You get some of the same benefits from Elmax that you get in some of the other super steels, if you want to call them that. You know, you get a lot of benefits from that, but you get, I don't know, how do I want to word this? It's just in my opinion, it's a better steel for me, which this is an Elmax. Elmax is one of my favorite steels. I absolutely love Elmax. Crewwear is another really good one. Crewwear, you give up the rust resistance. Elmax is fairly rust resistant and it's pretty tough. It takes a really, really good edge. It always has taken. What means Magnacut? Magnacut's just a type of steel. It's a type of steel. It's a super it's a super fine structured super steel. It's a super high stainless, impact resistant, rust resistant. It's a good steel across the board. I personally think that if I was going to be doing woodworking, I would want tools made in Magnacut. Planer blades, things like that, because of how fine the grain structure is, that when you take it to a super fine edge, it's going to be something more. Straight razors, things like that you want. That's super fine, super clean steel. I guarantee that there's going to be people start making planer blades for hand planes and chisels out of Magnacut, because they are going to allow you to take those to that 20,000 grit edge that is for finishing chisels, for like things that guys that do super delicate woodworking, like guitar makers and piano makers, where it's going to be easier for you to have a good surface finish on the cut, to not have to do as much sanding, because that gets you, the less sanding you have to do, the less time it takes, and the less chance you're going to have inconsistencies in thickness for something like a guitar or a violin. Those tools have to be super fine edge, super crisp, highly polished to get a good surface finish on the wood. And I absolutely think that that would be great. Magnacut straight razors. Please, somebody start making Magnacut straight razors. That is a perfect steel for something like that. Because the finer you can get the edge on a straight razor, the less pull and tug you're going to have. You don't want it to have that toothy edge to cut on your face. It's just going to be that smooth, gentle, just popping through, because it's going to be so thin, so fine, less toothy. I've sharpened with knives that I've shaved with knives that I've sharpened. And I will tell you that the finer you can get that edge, the better experience you're going to have. If you were to lather up, even though this knife is sharp enough to shave with, if you were to lather up and shave with this, it'd be a very irritating shave. That tomahawk I shaved with, that was probably the worst shave I ever had after. Like, I was so irritated, like I bumped up and everything was bad. And somebody's like, oh, you should do another video where you shave with the tomahawk. Nope. Never doing that again. I don't think there'll be any videos of me shaving with a fucking pocket knife again. I don't think that's in the cards. So, guys, if you're here, please drop a like. There's only 16 likes on this video. So, we gotta put some of this stuff away. Gotta put some of this stuff away. I got too much stuff out. Too many things are out right now. It's gonna make it problematic. Guys, the studio, I was saying, like, so I filmed that video you saw yesterday about Jared's knife. I filmed it at like 3:30. I got up and filmed, and then I think I finished it at like, I finished filming at like 4. I finished filming at like 4 because it was just a quick video. It is a mess out here. Oh, hey! Guess who just got blocked? Don't come in here and spout that bullshit. Guys, the reason I restrict what we have, the reason I restrict what's said in the comment section is because of shit like that. It's offensive, and I don't want it. Double tap the screen. You should be able to drop a like. It is a mess out here. I finished editing, and I didn't put the computer away, and then I did a bunch of other stuff, and I was looking at stuff, and I was messing around with my knife, and I left a mess out here. So it's just, I don't know. And then also something had happened. It's not what I was expecting to do on President's Day. I had to find an electronics store that was it? It was either yesterday or the day before. I have a PS5. You guys know we talked about it. Yeah, this is my new knife that's coming soon. So you guys know I did the video about the Pip-Boy that I got as a gift. I'm an avid video game player. I'm not the best gamer, but I love playing video games. I have a PS5. The fan in my PS5 quit working, and I got the, hey, you're trying to kill me, Mark, come up on the screen, and I had to go through and I figured out what was going on. I had to find an electronics store that sold the fan that I needed to replace it. So I had my PS5 completely apart, putting a new fan in it because it's not just everybody's like, oh, well, you could, you know, if you're not playing video games, what do you need it? And I was like, the thing is, like, that's what I use for watching Amazon and YouTube and all that stuff. I run it right through my PlayStation because it does such a good job. It's just basically a home entertainment console. Do I have a Gerber strong arm? I do not. I don't like Gerber knives. I know that people are like, the Gerber strong arm's great. I don't like Gerber knives, and I'm not going to spend the money on a knife that I just don't think just blocked the president, man. No, I didn't. I don't have an Xbox. I don't like Xbox. I had an Xbox. I had an original Gen 1 Xbox. I have both. CS Blaster. I have both. In my pocket that is getting torn the fuck up. This is the 5.5-inch blade, and this is the much larger version. I have both. I like this one. I think this is about the best knife that Cold Steel's ever made. It really is. But I do carry the small. This is my favorite one. I just said dirt. This is my favorite Cold Steel folder. This one. I would say that a close second would be the AK-47 and the American Lawman. Those two are really, really good. I love both of those knives. I don't own either one of those knives anymore. I had an AK-47 folder, the Cold Steel AK-47, and I loved it. It was the first Cold Steel knife I ever had that had that thumb plate on it. And it was a great knife. And I wound up giving that to a gentleman, a young man that had went to the police academy, and he needed a knife, and I just gave it to him because I hadn't been carrying it very much. And so that I would say would be a close second. The AK-47 and the American Lawman, really, really similar knives. But my favorite is this one. I liked the Spartan, but the Spartan was not as functional. It had that deep recurve and stuff on it. And this gets you that same locked-in feel that you had on the Spartan, but then you have a further hold for some chopping, and you're just really locked in on this, and it's a great knife. Have I played South Park Stick of Truth? I have. I didn't finish it. Currently, I'm playing The Witcher 3. Which is a great game. The controls suck. The game, it seems like video, and not to get off the topic, but it seems as though video game creators got together and they did the same thing. Do you remember the pyramid? And it was like good Chinese buffet. Pick two. You can only pick two. So either get good Chinese, a good buffet, or a Chinese buffet. You can't get everything you want. And it just seems like video game creators were like, okay, good graphics, good story, good controls, pick two. And I'm like, why is it that games that have good graphics and a great story, the controls are just trash? It is not the Espada is not my favorite knife. That's my favorite Cold Steel knife. You have misconstrued my statement, Dennis. You've misconstrued my statement because my favorite knife is currently out in the studio, and I keep forgetting I take you guys with me because I'm not all tethered to the audio equipment and stuff like that. Favorite knife currently is residing in a spot with a bunch of knives. So these are knives we always use. So when you guys watch videos, there's three knives I always use for size comparison. The PM2, the fucking goddamn garbage Benchmade 940, and my Sebenza. There's a bunch of other knives that sit here because they spend a lot of time in my pocket, most notably my favorite knife of all time, which is the Microtech Ramlock Amphibian. This is the best knife I've ever bought. It's the best knife on the market. It's the best knife you're going to find. And it beats $1,000 knives on a day-to-day. This is a knife that did not fall into that triangle. So knives, you got good knife, good price, quality materials. Pick two. This did not fall into that category. This is a unicorn, great materials, great price, great knife, right? Everything about this is a win. This was the perfect storm. So this thing is out of the norm because it hits all of the wickets. I'd have to have it reground, but I like the design. You'd have to have what reground? This thing is super thin behind the edge. Super thin behind. Okay, buck knives are okay. I mean, I don't want to shit all over. You know, your thing. Buck knives are okay, but there are so many knives out there. There are so many knives out there that are way better than buck at the same price. Buck knives are really, really famous. They also have a lot of problems. They have like a handful of knives that are good. The Buck 110 Special, or the Buck 110, I'm sorry. The Buck 110 is, I need to own one. I had one, I got one time. The Buck 113 Ranger, which is a smaller version. I carried one of those for years in the military. The Buck 119 Special and the Buck 121. Those outside of that, I really don't like a lot of the Buck knives. The ones that they do them well. They are brittle. I mean, go check out Peterbilt Knife Guy's thing where he's showing like buck knives on a nail, even though for years that was their selling point, that you could cut a nail or cut a bolt. They don't do that anymore. It's not the same company. It's not the same heat treat. It's not the same, but they are good. They're just not as good as some other knife companies out there. The materials that other companies use, the designs. I would take this over a buck knife any day. Elmax, all that stuff. Can only carbon steel? No. If you watch a video, I have a knife that I designed that went to outer limitless, and it is 100% a stainless steel, air-cooled stainless steel, and when he struck the ferro rod, it worked just fine. That's a fallacy. It's not. It's the rod that's doing the sparking, not the item. You're just adding the friction that causes the reaction. Elmax, way better steel than anything Buck is using. And Buck's heat treats can be questionable. As can Ontario and especially K-Bar. K-Bar treats their stuff way too hard. It makes they get a lot of embrittlement in their blades, which is why a lot of K-Bars break. The handles break off of them. Guys, I'm going to keep hounding it because I really want Jared to sell these out. This is the offender. This is that pinned comment. This takes you to the website. You can check it out. You can look at like prices and stuff. I'd really appreciate it if you guys at least click that link to check it out because Jared's knife is great. This thing is one of the best knives I've had come in a long time. The knife I just pulled out was the one that we unboxed earlier. This is the Psyop from Vosteed Knives in Elmax. It's got a bronze coating of sorts on the blade. I don't really know what it is. I'm gonna have to do a little bit of research. I do have a communication with Vosteed Knives, and so I can reach out to them and ask them questions about this. I was just talking to them this morning, as a matter of fact, about asking if they had anything they wanted to put on the channel. Now I have to inform them that this is something that's already here. Do I like Victorinox? I love the Victorinox Swiss Army knives. As a matter of fact, 9 times out of 10, when I leave the house, I got to drag some of this stuff back out with me. We don't want too much stuff sitting on the counter because that's stuff I have to put away later. And if my wife comes home early, she's going to throw a fit. I'm not filming today, by the way, guys. I don't know if you can tell. I don't feel good. I've got a bit of a sore throat, which makes it problematic if you're spending an entire day trying to film. Like, if you don't feel good, filming just becomes problematic. What was it we were... Where did I put it? It's right here. This lives on the workbench on my way out of the door. This, yeah, I am, I'm going to have some tea, but what I need to do is I need to just put on some like Vicks Vapo Rub or something on my chest, and then just, I was running a little bit of a fever when I got up this morning. This is the Officer Suisse or the Tinker. I can't remember which this one is. This one goes in my pocket when I leave the house. It sits on my workbench. It sits on my workbench where I keep my sunglasses a lot of times. And so this goes, and if it's not on the workbench, it's in this little cubby on top of my wallet. And that's where my keys and my wallet and sunglasses and stuff typically sit. And it's one of the things I grab, and it goes in my watch pocket. Because this is the only multi-tool I ever carry. I don't carry a Leatherman. I don't carry a bunch of other, like these ones. People are like, oh, you should try this one, you should try this one, you should try this one. And I was like, you know what? I would. If I ever had a scenario when I was out somewhere and I thought to myself, you know what I really need is a pair of pliers. I don't think I've ever once, because I have a little toolkit in the car. Guess what's in there? Pliers and channel locks. Little stuff that I can use. A couple screwdrivers. Like basically just a little car toolkit. I've never once been somewhere and thought to myself, I really need a pair of needle nose pliers. Never once. And therefore, I don't carry a Leatherman because they're big and they're bulky, and just putting that Swiss Army knife in my pocket gives me what I need. I got a screwdriver. I got another screwdriver. I got a can opener. I got a bottle opener, and I got 2 knives. If I've got the big one, which I do put in my pack for camping, it's got a magnifying glass I can use to start a fire if the sun is out, so I don't have to use my ferro rod, and I don't necessarily have to use matches. I also carry my hobo. People, I shit on case knives all the time. If you want a hard use knife, you don't want a case. You want a quality knife, you don't want a case. However, if you want to take a small little pack of silverware somewhere with you, Case Hobo. This is a cool little stuff. If you guys have never seen one of these. So the Case Hobo has been around for a while. Hobo kits have been around for a while. These things are great. No, theirs isn't very good. It's not as good as this one. Peterbilt Knife Guy destroyed one of these the other day. So you get a spoon. Get a fork. And you get a nice, decent little knife. It's not great. It's not a great knife. But if you're cutting up your food, what was it I said when I had the homeless guy wind up in my yard here not too long ago? It was like a hobo in your backpack is fine. A hobo in your backyard, not so great. So this just all clicks together. The problem I have with the K-Bar one is it's all plastic and it's crappy, and I've seen them like I've seen so much stuff break made by K-Bar. Do I like Opinel knives? I like Opinel knives enough. I'm going to announce it right now and tell you guys I haven't added it. I have got an affiliate link with Opinel. They are now officially an affiliate link. If you like Opinel knives, by the end of today, I'm going to start adding those to the description of videos. I have an affiliate link with Opinel. It's not going to be in the description of this one because I just got it. What brand knife is that? This is the Case Hobo. And so they are a great little thing for your pack. Now, case knives in general aren't great, but for a kit that you can put in your pack, and if you want to wear it on your belt, this thing's old. I don't know how old this one is, but this has been around for a while. I got this. I went to go look at purchasing a gun from an individual, and we were going to do the transfer, and I wound up not liking a gun, but we were at his house. I saw this. He had the gun in a case in his toolbox, and I would recommend using my affiliate links down below. Probably Blade HQ will have them. This was in the drawer And he's like, I was like, I'm not interested in that firearm now. Because it just wasn't what I wanted. It was a little revolver. It was a 38. It wasn't what I wanted. It just didn't meet what I wanted. And I was like, but I will buy that from you. He goes, hell, that thing? He's like, I've had that forever. He's like, I got it at a, he's like, I got it somewhere. He's like, I'll tell you what, 30 bucks, it's yours. And I'm like, sold, because these things are not 30 bucks. These things are closer. I want to say these are closer to the $100 realm. And I told him, I was like, I don't think that. He's like, oh, he's like, it's been in that drawer just like the pistol. It's been in there forever. He's like, it's out here. It's locked in the garage. It's locked in my toolkit. And I'm like, here's the thing, Dirk McGirt. I told him twice. I was like, he's like, 30 bucks. He's like, I'm not going to take any more for it. He's like, I don't think I ever used it. And I was like, okay. And so I used it. I kept this in my desk drawer at work because I'm famous for forgetting my silverware. I keep this in a backpack. So they're not a great knife, but for this application, it is great. Let's talk about my knife. Let's talk about this pretty girl here. This one is coming soon. Coming soon. I just talked with KATSU. Yesterday. So it's not, I was hoping to have this out like New Year's. This thing, I'm really impressed with it. If you saw Jim Skelton's video about it, they did such a good job on this. It's a full convex. Dad, this is my design. So this is based off of my little fixed blade sea snake, right? But with a drop point blade, and it's bigger. Now, the only things that I will tell you are changing is that logo is not going to be there. They're switching to T8 hardware. In future iterations, this choil is going to be a little bit smaller because if you guys know, I've said it. So this knife is, I can't remember how big it is. So this is, just to put things in perspective, size of my hands, this is a 12.25 inch knife. That is 5.5 inch blade. Big hands. Big hands, big fingers. Isn't there a lock? Yes, there's a lock. It's a frame lock. That choil is just a little bit bigger than it needs to be. About 2 millimeters. It's a frame lock. Dennis, the lock is right there. So that's awesome. I'm going to have to check some more of your stuff. Looks amazing. That's a convex. Yeah. So a convex iron is gorgeous. It's really, really good. You've got a really good strong edge because there's a lot of material behind it. But the fact is, the convex edge is like an apple seed grind, almost like an axe grind. It just pushes material out of the way. Like when you're cutting cardboard and stuff, it just screams through it because the edge does the cutting and then the material behind it just pushes it out of the way. So you've got less friction. And I've always been a big fan of it. I took Japanese swordsmanship for like 10 out of the 13 years I was in Japan. And so that's the same grind you have on a samurai, on a katana, a Japanese sword. They come down full convex. It's on Tonto knives and the Japanese swords cut so well because of that distinct grind. And so putting this on a knife gives you a lot. Now, I forget, I think this is 9, I think it's 8, it's almost 9 inches, just under 9 inches. It's just under 9 inches. And people are like, weird length on this. The thing is, it's based off of my original fixed blade knives. People are like, well, what do you think of when you do a knife? I was like, I make a handle and then I do a knife to fit the blade to fit. So these are going to be, we're talking about my shit now. So these are going to be in titanium and fat carbon fiber. Let me get some better light. Let's go out here where light is better. I bought a bunch of milk crates for storage. Let's see. I'm trying to find a spot. So yeah, there you go. You got, this is the Mars Valley fat carbon fiber titanium bolster lock on this. It's a flipper frame lock. I like the Mars Valley. Oh, I almost ended the live feed. Almost ended the live feed. I like the Mars Valley carbon fiber, but it's going to be in a bunch of different colors as well. There's a white one, there's a blue one, there's a yellow one. I'm originally from Ohio, but now I'm out here in Southern California. So yeah, this thing's great. Hang on a second, guys. I got to take care of this. My bad. Sorry. I'm back. Sorry about that. I had a call coming in. My bad. Yeah, absolutely awesome. Les Stroud. Les Stroud, Survivor Man. That was one of my favorite TV shows. That was one. I am back, right? You guys can see me. I have returned. Please tell me you can see me. Somebody, if you can see me, drop in the like. Okay. Sorry, sometimes when you leave the live to take care of something, you don't come back. It's like, where'd he go? So, uncannily like Les Stroud. Survivor Man was one of my favorite shows. I loved that. So, thank you. That's pretty cool. He had a distinct voice. Ed Stafford. You mean, I don't know, who's Ed Stafford? Ed Stafford is the best. I don't even know who Ed Stafford is, so obviously I did not. So, yeah, but I wanted to design a knife that was going to be something different. When I designed the fixed blades and stuff, it was cool, but this was, when we went with this, I wanted it to be something special. Like, I didn't want it to be just another knife, which is some of the things, like, if you watch Jim Skelton's video about this, that's one of the things I got so tired of in the knife industry is just so many knives. And now it's just like, it's just another knife, right? It's just another knife. It's another one. It's just another one. And they're so similar. I wanted it to be different. And it's not so much that it's different. It's really similar in blade shape and handle shape to a lot of other knives. But I wanted it to stand out with specific things. You've got a full convex grind. It's in S90V. It's in fat carbon fiber and titanium. It doesn't have jimping. Okay, I try not to curse too much. I do like to keep it PG. I do have a younger audience these days, but for fuck's sake, why does there have to be jimping on fucking everything? You don't need it. Most people are never going to have that knife in a situation in that they would need jimping. Jared's knife has jimping. I'm not over the top. I'm not like going to say that I don't like jimp. The jimping on this is done incredibly well. It's about perfect. A lot of companies just put jimping on the knife just for the sake of putting a spot on the knife that looks like it's... Jimping are these little ridges that are on this. These don't really serve a purpose for most people. And the fact is most companies do them and then they're just not functional. They're too soft. These are kind of soft, which is out of character for Vosteed. It's there for grip, but most people aren't going to have that knife in a scenario. And I'm starting to get headache because I'm reading comments without my reading glasses on. Most people are not going to be in a scenario where they need jimping. I'm not walking the length of the Amazon. I'm not going to be in the rain and be oily and greasy. Now, I will admit there are going to be people that do a lot of work that want jimping on a knife for certain scenarios. I understand that. This is not the kind of knife that most people in those scenarios are going to use. And the fact is, if you're holding this knife in this grip, there and there, you are locked in. You don't need jimping. It's ugly. Most of the time, it doesn't serve a purpose. It detracts from the beauty of the blade. And people are like, "There's no lanyard hole." You're right. You know why? fucking lanyard holes are ugly. They are. Now, I probably could have asked them to put a lanyard post in the backspacer, and that may be something we look at if there's going to be future generations of this knife. The things that are in this knife are the things I like. The things that aren't in this knife are things that I really don't think you need. This is a big knife. You don't necessarily need a lanyard with this. Right? Look at that edge, Clinton. S90V, full convex, drop shut smoothness. No jimping, no lanyard hole. It's a right-handed knife. Right? How many pocket knives do I have? Jesus, hundreds. Literally hundreds. Somebody asked me to do a live feed of my entire collection. I was like, I don't have that kind of time in my life. So I personally don't see the lanyard hold is, like I said, if I was making a knife that was a utilitarian purpose knife, right? Maybe. But the fact is, for most of the time that I'm going to, me personally, most of the time I'm going to be doing something where I would need a knife like that. I'm not going to want a folding knife. You know what I mean? Which is why this exists. This is also one of my designs. And it's the baby brother to the knife we just looked at, my folding knife. This is my design for a fixed blade. Doesn't need a lanyard. It's on a sheath, and it's on your belt, and it's locked in. Can you see the correlation between these? If you turn this blade around and put the choil on the other side, do you see what you have? Do you see it? This is this knife with the blade on it the other way around. I took this knife, well actually, technically this knife is the fixed blade version of that with the blade turned around, because I made a drop point version of this knife for my daughter as a present for her birthday one year. This is the sea snake. This is the hobo, both venomous knives. This is just a big version of this with the blade on it the other way around. Technically, this knife came after the first one, but this, I like Warrencliffe's. Buddy asked me if I could turn one of the other ones into a Warrencliffe, and I did, and he liked it, and I liked it, and I started carrying one, and then I went to a company and asked them if they could produce it. The reason? Because I worked on a job site doing construction. This is not a very big knife. Right? It's not a very big knife, but it does have a good grip and things like that. The nice thing about this on a job site, carry this on my belt. I don't have to take my gloves off to use it. I can put it right back in its sheath on my belt. I don't have to fuck around with it. If you've got gloves on and you're having to manipulate a folding knife, a lot of times you got to take your glove off. Get dirt and gunk down in the lock mechanism and all that stuff. It's just a mess. A folding knife is not great. I started carrying one of these small fixed blades. Then I started making more of these. Then I reached out to a company and they did a production version of this. You can get these at Artisan down below with my link down below. I don't know what the dog's barking at. What are you barking at? What are you barking at? Is there somebody at the door? My wife has gotten into gardening, and now my house looks like a little jungle. Mailman drop something? Nope. Oh, he's barking at me. It might have been the neighbors leaving their house. So, yeah, there's elements of knives that make sense, and there's elements of knives that don't make sense, and then there's companies that put them in the wrong places. And so when I did my design, I just decided I just didn't want those elements in the knife. We may, if people like it, I may see if I can ask them to mill a spot in here and add a lanyard post, which is the best option. They get just a hole in there, like with a pin. They just scoop it out and then put an extra pin in. May be able to do it. Other companies have done it. I'm not big on saying yes or no on that. I just don't think that it really matters that much. The number of people that use lanyards for what a lanyard is designed for are much less than people that just use a lanyard as a way to display something and add an element to their knife. And I've just never been a big fan of it. I've had a couple knives with lanyards. I've got some really cool lanyard beads, but I've never liked the way a lanyard fits on a knife. I've never liked how it slams about when you open it, then you've got the lanyard that bangs into something. Maybe on a smaller knife, I could see it. On a little knife. On a larger knife, I see no need for a lanyard. The only thing I've ever seen a lanyard come in handy for was on a smaller knife where you don't have real good purchase. It kind of extends that. It makes it easier to get a hold of and get it out of your pocket. I don't have a problem with this. It's a nice big knife. You're not out of pocket. You've got plenty of real estate to grab hold of that knife. Just stick your thumb in your pocket. You grab the knife. Bob's your uncle. Your knife's open. I don't see needing a lanyard on something like this. And guys, if you're here, please drop a like. And if you want to, you can drop a super chat. YouTube is fucking us content creators on our revenue. Literally, like I said, mine's dropped 50%. This knife has a lanyard hole. I don't really think it needs it, but it is a deep carry, which is another factor that may lead you wanting a lanyard hole. I'm digging this. I am really digging this. This is White Mountain. I think this is Vosteed and Tough Thumbs. I think this is Tough Thumbs. And I know Jeff, so I think I'm going to reach out to him. I want to talk to him about this. This is Tough Thumbs design, I believe. Yeah, this is a Tough Thumbs design. And Jeff's a great dude. And all you guys that did donate to his GoFundMe that I set up that time, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. It was really, really cool that we were able to... if you guys don't know, Jeff at Tough Thumbs got his entire shop flooded here a couple years ago. Just a really good design. Jeff's knives are always good. The edge on that though is, let me show you. Factory edges can be problematic. Sometimes they're not great. But some companies do a really good job with their factory edges. Vosteed happens to be one of those companies. Why is everyone leaving? 14 people. That is a very, very good edge. That is basically phone book paper. I like using phone book paper. Well, technically it's not phone book paper. It's my general election guide with all the information, but it's phone book paper. So it's a really good medium for testing an edge. It tears really easily, which is why it's a good material for testing edges. So when you have a material that is, when it tears really easy, that means that if there's a flaw in that edge, you're going to know real easily whether you've got a spot on there that's like a little chip or a roll or anything like that. So cutting phone book paper or newspaper is a really good metric. There's a couple others. Like I just find that like magazine paper is a little bit more forgiving. than like the loosely bound newspaper. You can do that. Now what that's not going to show is if you've got a finer edge. So if you've sharpened your edge, it's a finer edge on some steels, you're not going to get that. Even though that knife is just as sharp, it might not. Let's see, will this still do it? I've used this a lot since I tested it that way. This is the factory edge on this, and it is definitely definitely cutting that. Let's see. See, this edge is a finer edge, and it's not cutting as smoothly. It's wanting to tear. It's every bit as sharp. So that's what I'm saying. A good metrics for all around is something that is a little bit above that, but not quite printer paper. You can cut printer paper with a dull knife. You really can. You can cut printer paper with a fairly dull knife in comparison to what you can cut newspaper with. If you were to do, if this was printer paper, I would be able to do that and then take this knife and get it a good bit less sharp, still cut printer paper, but it wouldn't do that. It would tear. It's really easy to tear the finer paper. So I like a medium that's kind of in the middle, because a lot of times edges are not as toothed. This is an incredible edge. And like I said, here's the thing, I chopped wood with this. Let's see, I did a lot more chopping. Did a lot more chopping with the bigger version. It may, no. I chopped oak firewood with this knife in a video. There's not anything wrong with the edge on that. That is a testament to this. Cold steel gets a lot of shit. Cold steel gets a lot of shit. Cold steel does get a lot of shit, but I gotta say, their knives are usually really, really good. What's my favorite EDC? We just did this. You know what? I need to put it in my pocket. You guys ask too often. You guys ask way too often. At least my head quit hurting because I finally put my reading glasses on to read the comments. That's how you know you're old. Like, I've got multiple pairs of reading glasses throughout the house. My favorite EDC knife is the Microtech Amphibian. Some people have said that, like, oh, I would have to, one of the guys was like, oh, I'd have to regrind that. And I never finished addressing that comment. Nice and thin behind the edge, the grind on this, right? It does thicken up here. So what you get is you've got this really thin cutting edge, and then about here, it does start to get thicker behind the edge. It's intentional. Some people are like, oh, that's a misgrind. A lot of companies do misgrind their knives. That's not the case on this one. I did this with custom knives when I would make them. I made some knives for a few SEALs, and I know how hard they are on stuff. I did some knives for Special Forces guys. I left more material at the tip, so it did get thicker behind the tip, because that's the part that they're going to break, which makes sense on this. But this thing is, this thing's great. Nice and thin behind the edge. This is my favorite EDC knife. This is my favorite knife of all time. This is the best knife I've ever owned. I used to have another knife I said was the best production knife ever that I ever purchased. This has taken that spot. I used to say that the Riat Horizon D, which is still an incredible knife, still gets a lot of pocket time. I used to say that was the best production knife I ever bought. This has taken its spot. The Espada is the the AUS 10 version. This is the AUS 10 G10 version, and it came with probably one of the best factory edges. This came with one of the best factory edges on a cold steel, and I was like, okay, I got this one. I'm like, okay, I can't expect my next cold steel to have a good edge. That's just how it works. I'm that guy that will get one good knife, and then the next bunch of them will be just something wrong with all of them. Got this one shortly after, which is the larger version, and it came with every bit as good an edge. So I had said that some of the knives that were coming post GSM buyout from Cold Steel were not as sharp, and that was my oh, somebody asked about a Taipan. Cold Steel Taipan, I recommend don't get the 3V version. I think you're gonna be happier with the Sanmai version. I have mine, I'll go get it. Wheel, go get it. I forgot that we're not tethered to all kinds of other electronics and splitters and stuff because I'm not using my wireless microphones. I got my Taipan. I got the Sanmai version. I think that most people are going to be happier with the Sanmai version. You get a really good material, which is VG10 Sanmai, and it sharpens easy. It holds an edge pretty well. It's just an all-around great knife. It's probably the best fighting knife out there. This is probably the best fighting knife. It's really nimble. It's really good in hand. It's comfortable. It is a nice hollow ground dagger that comes down nice and deep. It's just, this comes down, this is just about perfect. This is about the best knife you're gonna find in a fixed blade. This is probably the best fixed blade that Cold Steel makes. It's very, for as beautiful it is, it's very minimal. I think this is VG10. I believe that they stopped using VG1 and VG10 were basically the same thing. It was just their rebranding of it, just to let you guys know. Cold Steel wanted a proprietary steel. They basically used VG10 from the same makers that were making it for Spyderco. So I believe this is a VG10 core Sanmai. But for as gorgeous as it is, it's really plain. It really is a very plain knife. It is that elegant simplicity, but it is attractive. And yes, it does light up when orcs are around. It glows blue. It does. I wish I was doing a video. I would put a mask over it, a blue mask over the knife, and say, "Whoop! See, look, one just drove by." Yeah. So if you're gonna get one, I think most people are gonna be happier. Can you hear that scratch when it goes in? I wish the guy that made the sheath for me did a really good job, but I really wish he had put something over top of the snap in there. It's not that I care so much, but I do think it's a gorgeous knife, and I don't want to scratch it up. I may figure something out for it, but this is an aftermarket sheath that I purchased because I don't like Cold Steel sheaths. That is something. It looks like it would throw great too. I'm not about to throw a $300 knife. Is there a smaller version of that knife? I don't know. There is not. The Taipan is the Taipan. And I've never been a big fan of daggers because I'm always a functional guy. I find them attractive, but I've never been a big dagger guy. We're going to talk about, I'll get off on this a little bit on a tangent. And there's a reason that I've never been real big on daggers is because I didn't find them functional. That one is. That's one of the few exceptions. I have one here that's fun, but not functional. Do I think 3V is overrated? Yeah, because here's the thing. The reason I say don't go with the 3V and 4V are much more rust prone than the Sanmai. It's just I've never. It does some things really well. It just never has been. It's just never been that like up there on my list of things. This is another dagger. Really similar until you get down into the functionality. This is fun, not functional. This knife is only for stabbing. There's just no real comfortable grip to use it as a slashing weapon. This is, you hold it in this grip, you put your thumb there, and you poke someone till the air comes out of them. You let the air out of them, right? 440HC. Didn't we answer this question? Dennis, didn't you ask? I said 440HC is pretty good for some applications. I thought we've addressed that like multiple times that you've asked that same question. This, however, is functional, hollow ground, nice edge, and it is nimble in hand. That is not. You don't have the limitations of the handle shape on that, posing the problems that you have with this specific. While it's attractive, it looks cool, right? It looks like an assassin's knife. This knife is not as nimble. It doesn't feel the same in hand. It doesn't have the same balance. The handles are very limiting in the grip that you're in for use. So fun, yes. Functional, no. Fun, yes. Functional, absolutely. The nice thing about a well-done dagger that cuts well like this is not only can I cut this way, I can cut. So now I've got multiple angles. I can back cut. If somebody's trying to grab me, I can back cut, right? Their arm. While I'm cutting forward, I can back cut. It's just all the things that you learn in martial arts about using an edged weapon get thrown into this. It really does. It's a very, very good knife. Not just attractive. I carry that. I carry that on walks with the dog. I wish the American Law, I wish they'd make a different lock though. The American Lawman has got a Triad lock. That is the best lock you're ever going to find. If you want a strong lock. This Triad lock. It's ambidextrous. If it's a nice smooth knife, even on this big one, I can deploy it with my thumb. If you've got the wave feature, it flies out of the pocket. And this lock makes this knife almost a fixed blade. Like no knife will ever be a fixed, no folding knife will ever be a fixed blade. There are going to be stress points and things in there in the construction that are going to cause problems, but it is as close to a fixed blade as you will ever get in any knife that's a folder. Is going to be a knife with the cold steel Triad lock. It really is. And guys, I have not had my second cup of coffee yet today. One of my favorite knives of all times is backlock. It's, I keep doing this. I'm going to have to clean this all up. One of my favorite knives of all time. I think my favorite, it's not the best. It's not the best Spyderco, but it is my favorite. It's the Spyderco Police, and it's a backlock. And it's great because it's ambidextrous. They're fairly strong. This is not as strong as a Triad lock, but fairly strong. If you get a good one, they're easy to manipulate. And I only care about the speed of deployment. I don't care about how fast it is to put it back. Right? Now I have cut myself with this because this is on that point where you really have got as much blade shoved into a knife as possible. I've cut myself by sticking my hand in there. Coffee. I wanted coffee. Let's try this. Let's get some more of this. I'm trying to figure out what the flavor is on this. This is that. So this is Bones Coffee mystery flavor. And Bones Coffee, what the fuck is up with your packaging? Like every time I've ever opened a package of Bones Coffee, the little zipper thing, it doesn't work. The zipper seal is never attached properly. Never. And now this thing, I have to seal it with a clothespin. Coffee. I'm not big on tea. I drink tea occasionally. My wife's Japanese, so there is a lot of tea here. We have black tea, we have English tea, we have English black tea, a breakfast blend. My wife drinks a lot of tea. We also have a lot of Japanese green tea and things like that. And oolong and a bunch of other different teas here at the house. I personally prefer coffee, but I do drink tea. I'm not gonna lie, I like Earl Grey. Earl Grey is a really good coffee, or a really good tea. I just prefer coffee. Absolutely the best. Microtech is a company you all need to check out. If you haven't lately, Microtech's got some really good stuff going on. Their RAM lock is incredible. And the fact is, they've lowered their prices. From the time I bought my first Microtech, they've lowered their prices about $100 on their folding knives. Like, I couldn't believe that. When I bought this one, I was like, wait, that's like almost $150 less than I paid for my first Microtech knife. Everybody else is raising prices. They've lowered theirs. There we go. Made here in the USA. Yep. USA made. Now, they may... Okay, I will say something, and this isn't political driven. There is probably going to be some increase in pricing on certain knives that use specific steels, unless those companies switch to a USA-made analog. So this knife is 100% USA made. The steel, however, is coming out of Böhler Udelholm. So this is M390 MK. So it is made in, I can't remember where Böhler Udelholm is. It's either Sweden or the Netherlands, or I can't remember where Böhler Udelholm is. So the steel on this is imported steel, but the knife, basically they import a plate and then they cut out their blades out of it. So there may be some price increases if they decide they want to stick with that. Or they can find a company in the United States that will make that formulation, or they come up with a different formulation. And so the thing is, well, if you're going to do it, use one of my affiliate links down below. The Blade HQ, I believe, Blade HQ link still has some of these on it. I don't have a problem with that. I do believe that this venison is delicious. I do believe that there will be some increase in the price of knives just based on steel prices until companies in the States pick back up their steel production and start making some of these specialty steels. CPM is basically going out of business. This may be something that pushes them out of bankruptcy. So I see it being something. CPM 20CV is very similar to M390, but this is a different formulation. This is M390 that has been a change in their formulation. So I do see some growing pains in the knife industry when it comes to steels and steels that they use and steels that can be produced locally. Unfortunately, a lot of these specific steels that we use for knives are not made in the United States. Böhler makes Elmax and some other stuff. Kevin, that makes absolutely 0 sense. Don't troll my channel. I don't give a shit about your girl and her birthday. I don't give two shits about anything any of you trolls have to say. You guys that are here in the comments, that are actually here, I'm fine with y'all. If you could come here as a troll, you can fuck right off. It's a different formulation of the steel. Rubicon, what's up? It's coming soon. I spoke with them just a couple days ago. He said something, my girl's not going to be able on her birthday. I don't fucking care. Are you looking for fucking for personal affirmations? You came to the wrong place. I have a hard enough time with my own life. I don't need to solve your fucking problems. It's not, sorry, wrong knife. It's not the heat treat. That's part of it. It's a different formulation of the steel. So it's the base steel was M390, then they made some changes. I personally love it. People are like, oh, it's just a softer version. It's not. Like, I've only had to, I carry this knife every day. Every day. There has not been a day since April that I have not carried this knife. No, not this specific one. In April of last year, I got one that came in and I did a review of it and I carried it every day because I loved it, and I bought one, and when mine showed up, I started carrying it more. Chromium was already in it. M390 had a high chromium load. That's why it was so rust resistant. I don't know because they haven't released the specs on it. It's a proprietary formulation of steel, Joe. People have said, oh, it's a softer version of M390. It's not going to hold an edge. I've sharpened this once. I've literally, I think May, I got this knife in May of last year. I've carried it every day. I've sharpened it twice. Once because I didn't like the factory edge 100%. Yeah, they admit it's a slight adjustment. The factory edge, like, it was okay, but it just wasn't exactly what I wanted. You could tell that they did it with a wicked edge because it was hand sharpened, but the serrations went this way. I didn't like the way it cutted. I had a little minor stroke there. English, motherfucker, do you speak it? I like my micro serrations to go this way, not this way. A wicked edge, you're pushing down and your serrations go this way. I resharpened it because I didn't like the direction it cut, because it wasn't a belt edge. It was like a wicked edge style edge. You could see by the serrations, a very acute edge. I sharpened it because of that, and then I sharpened it once for a video, just to show how to sharpen a recurve. I did it on a live feed with you guys. They didn't have edge retention. What I think happens is sometimes when they set the initial edge on a belt before they do the wicked edge sharpening, or how they did it, maybe they did it on a belt at an angle, I don't know. Sometimes they've had this problem before they had a problem with Elmax, Microtech did, where the first, and I'm not gonna lie, my Microtech DOC had this problem. It was in Elmax, the edge wouldn't hold up that factory edge. It just kind of peeled off. And everybody's like, oh, Elmax is garbage. And it's the second time I sharpened my Microtech DOC, I really didn't have to sharpen it too many times after that. They kind of burnt their edge. So that can be a problem. This I didn't have that problem with. How often do I sharpen my knife? When it's dull. I don't, like, everybody's like, oh, you sharpen your knife once a month. I was like, well, if I didn't cut anything with that knife, or if it's still cutting at the level I would want, if it's still sharp, why would I put it on a stone? Let's see. Will this do the, yeah. That's why I'm not going to sharpen it. It's still cutting very well. I'm not going to put a knife on a stone just to sharpen it. It's just not something I do. It doesn't make sense. There are some guys that, like, oh, I cut some paper with my knife. I got to put it on a, I had a buddy that he carried a little ceramic stone in his pocket, really super fine one. Right? And every time he would put that thing, he would pull out this ultra fine ceramic rod, and then he would just and he was like, "Well, the knife doesn't feel sharp anymore." I was like, "It's sharp. It's just that the edge you have on it now is really, really, really super fine, and on a lot of steels that doesn't get you where you want to go. You want to have an edge that is still aggressive enough to cut." And there's guys that do the same thing with strop. When my knife feels like it's not cutting the way I want it to anymore, I'll hit it on a strop. I'll show you the progression. We'll go out there. Well, I almost spilled all that coffee all over the counter. The unbrewed coffee. So if and you get blocked forever. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come out to the studio. Like, if my knife doesn't feel like it's cutting, I'm going to use this bare leather strop. It's not been loaded. This is just leather. There is no, turn that light on. There is no stropping compound on this. It is just a leather strop. This is a Hutzel strop. You can use my Amazon store. It's one of the best strops I've found. No politics, no religion. So this is the first step. If you've got a strop, like just this one, if this does it, you're fine. This has enough sulfides and stuff in the silicates and stuff in the leather that it's gonna get you a little bit, it's gonna lay that edge back up. If that does not work, I mean, loaded strop. This side has chromium oxide, this side has diamond emulsion at 1200 grit. That is going to be a little bit better. And you can strap, and then once I clean any of the stropping compound off of that, I'm gonna hit it up on this to lay the edge back up just perfect. If that does not work, I'm gonna use this ceramic rod. I'm gonna give it a couple passes on the ceramic rod. Then I'm gonna go to the loaded strop. Then from the loaded strop, I go to this strop. If that does not work, if it still doesn't feel like that got it back to where it's sharp, then I'll put it on some sharpening stones. And to give you a reference, let's look at this one here. Also a KATSU knife. If you're interested in KATSU knives, coupon code crazysharp at KATSU Knives saves you 10% off their amazing knives. So this is ZDP 189. So I pull this out of my pocket. If it doesn't feel like it's cutting the way I want, it's going to, because this is ZDP 189 at 67 Rockwell. It's always going to be sharp. It's probably never going to get dull. I'm going to just take this out of my pocket. I'm going to grab this, and I'm simply going to give it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 round trips on that side of the strop. Then I'm going to do the same thing. 2, 3, always back towards yourself, tip to heel. 4, 5. That is insane, the difference. It was already sharp. So that's all you're gonna do. If that doesn't work, then you do the same thing. You pick which side. For ZDP 189, the chromium oxide is the best bet. Don't ask me why. I don't know why, but the chromium oxide does a better job on the ZDP 189 than the diamond side does. You can use the diamond and then the chromium. And then, like I said, you just go through those steps. So a bare leather strop is going to... A bare leather strop is actually going to give you a very, very good touch up on an edge. It's going to feel, if you've already got a really good edge and you just touch it on this, it's going to bring back that crispy edge. It really is. I prefer to use just a bare raw leather strop with no stropping compound 9 times out of 10. The edge just feels different coming off of that. Now, if you do the combination of both, where you use the one that's loaded and the one that isn't, you wind up with a really great edge. I have not had to sharpen any of my knives in a while because I use a combination of strops. This came back from Jared. It had a bit of a wonky feel to the edge. Loaded strop, bare strop, not bare strop, but the unloaded strop, and now the edge on this is just, it's insane. This edge should be crazy. I mean, Jared obviously used this. I got both. I got a double cut on that one. Did you see that shit? That was one pass. So S90V is another great, great steel. Duro Sig 556R. welcome to the chat. So yeah, it's really that simple to keep and maintain your edges. It really is. People have a tendency to sharpen too much, and not so much they sharpen too much, they sharpen the wrong way. I like, don't use those pull through V-notch sharpeners. They're horrible. I'm going to show you something. Like, I will use this occasionally to touch up a factory edge, but I don't go crazy with it because what can happen is you wind up you burnish your edge. It winds up being too fine. This is a Spyderco ultrafine ceramic plate, and this thing is great for a quick touch up. Some steels take an insane edge off of this, so you polish it up and then you come back to this. For some reason, it's just like it brings that edge up to a stupid, ridiculous, crispy edge, right? Some steels don't respond to it, but I use this in lieu of the ceramic rod as a home, because sometimes the ceramic rod will only just hit the very apex and it can roll your edge a little bit. You don't get it. If you use this instead of that rod, just 1 or 2 passes and then back to your strops, a lot of times you're going to be back in the ballpark of where you want to be on sharpness without needing to go to something really aggressive like this diamond plate and then go through the transition of stones. So water stones are really good. The best stone you're going to find, go to my Amazon store and look up the Shapton Pro. This is I'm going to tell you right now, write this down. I have a link to my Amazon store down below. It is the K0702. This is 1,000 grit. It is a ceramic stone, and this is incredible. This is a Shapton Pro. It's an incredible stone, and you're going to be able to sharpen almost everything. It is a water stone, so it's not your typical ceramic stone. This gets you the best of both worlds. Water stone comes with a stand. It is probably the best. And to show you how much I like it, I have multiples of that brand, including all the way up to a 12,000 I use for straight razors. I have a 15,000, I believe. So I have the 1,000, the 8,000, the 12,000, and that's pretty much all of them you need. And they're just incredible. So those are ones. Here's the thing. I think that those two together, I paid less than 60 bucks. They are not expensive, and they are really good. They are finicky. You can't soak them for too long. You got to make sure you clean them up really good. They do wear, as opposed to like a hardened, fired ceramic like this, where this is basically like a glass plate, like your cups and things like that. They don't dish out. Those will. You have to flatten them, but they are great. And at the price point, they're probably about the best stone you're going to find on the market. For straight razors, the higher you go in the grit, the better. I sharpen hand tools. Like I said, the further you go up in a grit, the finer the edge is, the better your surface finish on it would be. So for certain things, I do have stones that go up to 17,000 grit, and I also have strops that are loaded, that are set up a specific way that I can take things all the way to 30,000 grit, mirror polish. But for woodworking tools like chisels, for things like, I have some friends that do that. They do art. They do art carvings on wood. That's what you want, because you get a lot finer. I have a guy that makes, he's a musical instrument maker. He makes guitars and fiddles, and the back plates, his small little finger plane that he uses, that I take to 30,000 grit, because it leaves a much finer surface finish. It's not as an aggressive as a cut. And so when he sets it and it gives him that really thin cut, it works better. And then he doesn't have to do as much actual finishing with like superfine sandpaper and things like that. There's reasons for the things to do. With straight razors, the smoother, the finer that edge is, the better it cuts. The finer the cut is, the less irritation. It's going to pop through instead of pulling. You don't want a toothy edge on a straight razor. So just one of those things. So are wood carving knives 70 HRC? No, they probably aren't. The problem with it is with a wood carving knife, you are flexing the blade. The harder that's going to be, the more chance you're going to crack the edge and chip it. And so therefore, they're typically carbon steel that is at a lower HRC, usually around 60-ish. I've sharpened a bunch of wood carving knives, like I said. Carving tools, the guy that does the guy that does stuff like that, I sharpen a bunch of his stuff. It's one of the few customers I still will sharpen for because he doesn't trust anyone else. Lily, are you back? You saying hi again? That leads me to believe you could be a troll. Thank you, Lily. It's the exact set of comments that you dropped before, which leads me to believe you could be a troll. I'm not saying you are, but you could be. Because the last time I had an interaction like this with a single name, female name, it was hello, I love your videos, and then there was a drop to an OnlyFans link. So Dennis, I only have one buck knife right now. I said that earlier. You asked me earlier about buck knives. I have a buck 119 special. Oh, I'm not saying you are. I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying, like, I see that you retracted your message. I'm not trying to say you are. I was just like, I'm suspicious. Oh, I get suspicious when I see that. We are going to do, I like this. I like this a lot. I got to reach out to Jeff and tell him how much I like this design. If you had to send your knife out to get, who would you trust to do some level of work that I did? Jared doesn't do stuff for customers anymore. I would have to say it would probably be Lacey over EDC and Lace. You can find her on Instagram. If I had to pick someone, it would be her. That's a good factory edge. I just like the overall look of this knife. Really, really good. Oh, my sweatshirt? Okay, people are going to be like, oh, he's wearing a Steven Crowder sweatshirt and drinking out of a Steven Crowder or Louderwood Crowder mug. One, that's not political. I just happen to like Steven Crowder. I have a sweatshirt. I have a friend that got me a couple things from there. I'm a member of mug because I think he's hilarious. And I watch all kinds of news, political news. It's not that I'm citing one way or the other, but the fact is, we don't talk about politics because I personally find it off-putting when people talk about politics. The knife that I was talking about, no. This is the Vosteed knives PSYOP, and it is a Tough Thumbs. Jeff over at Tough Thumbs. It is his design. If you're using, yeah, I have, here's the thing. We're at a point, Duro, literally I have come out here. Come out here. Let's be honest about the level of my addiction to knives. Boxes of knives, rolls of knives, more knife cases. This is an entire milk crate full of fixed blades. There's knives here. Those are all knives. These are all knives, and a lot of those cases have knives in them. There are knives up here. And there's knife cases around the house in various locations. And I have a rental storage unit. There's at least 2 more boxes of knives in. It's just, the thing is, at this point, a lot of stuff is like this. It's stuff that companies have sent, and it's here. I just, sometimes I do give away stuff, and I give knives to friends and things like that. And if you're a paying member, I have a membership. I don't know if you guys know this. I have a membership. If you're a paying member, I'm going to start giving away some of that stuff that's out there. It's become untenable for me to keep all those knives. Did you see in the majority of those cases in the back, those knife boxes, have knives in them. They're stacked up behind because I don't carry them and I don't have room for them. Those 3 knife rolls you saw, completely full of knives. Like there's no more room for knives in those knife rolls. A good portion of those boxes have knives in them. All of the boxes up here have knives in them. There's knives in these boxes here. There's knife cases here. There's testing. This is for testing. Toilet paper rolls, great way to test a factory edge. Then there's stuff down here. There's knives back here. Knives here. Those rolls are completely full. Every one of those boxes has a knife in them. Knives, 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 knives. They're literally everywhere. They are everywhere. And so I think, I mean, that's not even counting the stuff we put all over my wife's kitchen counter while we were doing this live feed. It's reached a point where I've become a knife hoarder. And things are migrating into the house. So when we moved here to this house, my wife told me this, the garage is yours. Oh, you think there's Dennis? There is a box of knives in this storage area under the steps. Box there. And in the downstairs bathroom, there's knives in that box. And that's an entire milk crate full of knives. And those. They're everywhere. And my wife told me when we moved to this house, she said, the garage is yours. Build your studio out there for your YouTube channel, do whatever you want, because we don't have to park the cars in the garage. There's parking outside. And I was like, okay, cool. She's like, here's the deal. No knives in the house. She's like, when I come home, I don't want any knives in the house on the counters. Our old house, they were everywhere. They were on top of the rice cooker. They were on top of the coffee pot. Every horizontal surface in our house had knives on them. I've reached the point where now she watched me put a box of knives under the steps and she's like, why? I was like, because it's too much. I took stuff out of our storage compartment, our storage container, our storage unit. We have one of the small, like closet size ones. It's like a little small one. Maybe enough for 2 people to stand in. You get like 3 rows of boxes in it, maybe. I took stuff out of there to bring back to the house because I put a box of knives in there. I did find something. You guys want to see something awesome? This is completely off topic. Completely off topic. But when I was at my storage unit, I found something that I have not seen in years. By the way, that's where I keep my Japanese swords and my tanto. My wife also has decided that she's growing plants. So when I was at the storage unit, I saw a box and I was like, what is in that? I was like, what is in that box? Some other Japanese sword there next to the gun safe. I was like, what is in that box? And I opened up the box and I found something I have not seen in years. Now, I'm 50, almost 51. On my 15th birthday, my mother got me this as a gift. And I'm like, I gotta see if this thing still works. I have an old school original Illumistorm from Radio Shack that my mother got me on my 15th birthday. And I was like, there's no way that that fucking works. Brought it home, took it out of its box, cleaned it up. 45 years later, that fucking thing still works. No. 35. 35 years. I've had that since I was 15. 35 years later. That was a Radio Shack. I said I wanted one. Every time we would go to the mall, I'd go to Radio Shack and I'm like, I want one. And I never wanted to spend my own money. I made money. I never bought stuff that I really wanted. When I was younger, I was mowing yards and stuff like that. My mother surprised me with that. She's like, oh, that thing's really cool. I was like, yeah, I want one, but I just like, it doesn't make sense. At that time, I was very frugal. I'm like, it doesn't make sense. Like, it doesn't serve a purpose. I was like, it's just cool. And she's like, oh, I get it. And I was like, I had the money to buy it. Birthday, there's a package, open it up, inside the package, the Illuma Storm. I have treasured that since I was 15 years old. I'm 50. Like, there are just some gifts that you get that just, like, it's amazing. Radio Shack was great for getting random resistors. Yeah. I built a radio in high school. Long live Radio Shack. That was the Realistic brand. The thing's amazing. Okay, so guys, it's been a little over 2 hours. We're going to go ahead and end this. I'm not doing another live feed this week. Monday, I was not doing a live feed. And like I said, I don't feel good. I don't know if I'm filming. And I really have got to find out what's going on with the start time of this new job. I got to figure it out. Like, I hate hounding them, but it just seems like it just keeps going on and on and on when we don't get a start date on this job. And I really, like I said, with the fact that my YouTube revenue has dropped off drastically, like 50%, I just can't. I have to go back to work. I have to work, and I've just been waiting on this job to start. So, that's so good. So good. So at any rate, guys, I'm gonna get off of here. I'm not filming anything today because I do feel like crap. So I love you guys. Thanks for hanging out. If you decide you want to drop a super chat, just drop it in. I won't be able to read it after I go live, after I end of it, of course. But guys, make sure that you go over and check out Jared's knife. The link to this knife, the purchase link to this knife. There's only 400 of these available. Purchase link is the pinned comment. This thing's amazing. This thing's a great, great knife. So if you haven't checked one of these out, go over to the link that's pinned in the description. It is to the company where you can pick one of these up. $299. There's additional hardware that you can purchase, pre-order for a penny. So yeah, guys, that's it. I got to get out of here. Love y'all. Take it easy. I'll see you like next time.